The race for Watertown Mayor. Candidates Sarah Compo Pierce and Lisa Ruggiero sit down together with Jeff Cole.
To help increase our revenues.
How are we spending our money? Are we making good decisions?
The race for Watertown Mayor with Jeff Cole.
Hi everyone, we are here with the candidates for Watertown Mayor, Sarah Compo Pierce and Lisa Ruggiero, both sitting council members in the city of Watertown. And we're here to talk about some different issues that the city will be facing over the next several years. Ladies, thank you for being here and agreeing to take the time to be with us. I'll just kind of give a little bit of history here in terms of Sarah Compo Pierce, appointed in 2019 to a vacant city council seat, elected to a full term in 2020. With Lisa Ruggiero, you began on city council in 2018, won again in 2022. And you're staying on council through 2024 no matter what happens in this race, but she is kind of mid-year within your second election, second term on city council. So my first question is, you know what you're getting into a little bit. Why do you want to run for mayor? Why do you want to take it from being on council and become the leader and the mayor of the city? And I'll start with you.
Thank you. Here's the thing. I've always been involved with the community. Actually, over 30 years, I have been involved with numerous organizations in the area, and I've always believed in helping people, and being part of city government is a form of that on a bigger scale. But the work is I find fascinating. I find it interesting. Some of it, yes, we make difficult decisions, but I really am proud of what I've accomplished so far, and being on almost 6 years and with many leadership roles in the community as president, I feel that it's really helped me be prepared to lead the city forward as mayor. My skill sets that I have earned over the years I feel has really prepared me well for this, and I really would look forward to that. Again, I like the work a lot. I just love what I do, and I love working with the staff and working with the public.
Sarah Compo Pierce, same question. Why become mayor?
Sure, thank you. So I was born and raised here in Watertown, and I'm certainly passionate about the community, passionate about serving the community, and really believe that we have seen under the past couple years of the current council majority a lack of leadership, a lack of fiscal responsibility, a lack of priorities, to put it plainly. And so I believe that I'm the right candidate to lead the city into the future with those priorities in mind. And when I say priorities, I mean fiscal responsibility. I mean prioritizing essential spending over things that we don't necessarily need. We saw spending near $8 million in the past year on recreational assets alone that can only be used 12 weeks a year. Meanwhile, we have severe issues with our drinking water and with our infrastructure that we have to address. So I firmly believe there needs to be a change when it comes to fiscal responsibility and investing in infrastructure. And furthermore, when it comes to transparency, we saw a multi-million deal to purchase the Watertown Golf Club done behind closed doors, done in private meetings, done with NDAs signed, and meetings where the public was actually silenced and prevented from speaking their mind about how their money was being spent. So I feel that there's been a real lack of transparency, and that needs to be restored, as well as a lack of decorum on city council. It's unfortunate that things have taken a turn in this way, that people are looking at Watertown as basically a laughingstock of the region. They're watching our meetings for entertainment, and that's quite frankly sad. And I feel that I have the demeanor, I have the professionalism, I have the skill set that can turn that around. And when I say demeanor and skill set, I mean I've worked in government for over 10 years. I was chief of staff for State Senator Patty Ritchie. I know the ins and outs of government at all levels, from the local level all the way up to the governor's office, the federal level, and I've built relationships, I've built experience that I know would make me the best leader for Watertown.
So what I want to go to the golf course here, because I want to put that to bed, because I have other questions I think are much more important in terms of the golf course and all of those. But lack of public involvement, secrecy deals. Give me your response to that quickly, if you would, just put it to bed.
Obviously, the way that I saw everything contrasts with my opponent, and she and I were at the same meetings that she calls closed-door meetings, which were executive session meetings. And we had 2 meetings in September of last year, and then she went out on maternity leave and was not involved in any way with the further discussion of what was going on with the golf course. The NDAs, which we signed in December, was as a result of her mentor, Mayor Smith, releasing confidential information about the offer before we had even finished really negotiating it. He made it public and put out there a dollar amount, and that pretty much, that was it. And so other information that was confidential, attorney-client privilege, he released that information. So contrary to what my opponent says, that PJ Sameo was involved with the NDAs, he was not. It was Mr. Lundy. He was the one, and he's the one who asked for us to sign it because it was his information. So we did not silence people. We had the November 7th meeting that she was encouraging people to attend, as well as the mayor, and we had probably 21, 22 people that attended, and then we had 2 more privilege of the floors after that.
So all things that have been debated in other areas, it's been well debated. So the answers are out there for, on that question. I want to talk about new things. I want to talk about first a new city manager. Okay, that's going to be challenging. You have a new city manager that'll be coming in because Mr. Mix is going to be retiring at the end of the year. When you got into this and you were looking to become mayor, you didn't know that. You may have thought you'd have that person with so many years of experience at your side. Is it going to be, how challenging will it be to have a new city manager as a new mayor as well?
Sure. Well, I think it will definitely be challenging because anybody who wants to Google Watertown City Council will see how things have been. And our meetings have been out of control, mainly because of 2 people. And half the problem will be gone at the end of the year. But what about working with somebody that has to come up with a budget? We're going to talk about budget here in a little bit, but you need someone with a skill set. We need somebody, right? We need somebody that is experienced, and that's why I was alluding to that, is because, you know, how many people will want to come to Watertown if they know how the dysfunction has been? And so, yes, it may be difficult, but I've been through 2 city manager searches, and we've always had a good 10 to 15 good candidates that we've been able to narrow down. So it can be done again. So
same question, challenging to work with somebody new, and you would be new to mayor. So can you make that work?
I definitely think so. And to your point about losing a depth of experience, we certainly are. And it's not just with our city manager. It's with our DPW, head of DPW, city engineer positions vacant. So with those positions either vacant or becoming vacant soon, we are losing a great deal of experience, including with our mayor, who's been an elected official for a number of years. Those people have that institutional knowledge. So I think it's going to be very important to have somebody come into that position that ideally knows a lot about Watertown, knows about the ins and outs, and has experience doing those important things like putting together budgets and things that are of that high level. And I also think on this topic, I would want to involve whoever's going to be the incoming new members of City Council, because ultimately those are going to be the people who the city manager is going to be working with. I know my opponent said in the Watertown Daily Times that she wanted this current council to be responsible for selecting the city manager. I don't think that's the case. I think it should be a process where after the election we see who's going to be in office and those people have an opportunity.
So very quickly, how do you think it should be? And I want to make it quick.
Thing. When I was when I was elected in 2017, the city manager then and council refused to share any information with me because they thought it was confidential. I shouldn't be allowed to participate because I was not even in office. Once you take office, you have to take the oath of office to be able to make those decisions. And sure, maybe if they have some comments, but we're the ones that are tasked with making that decision, and that's where it should stand.
So we could talk about billboards and memes, but instead I want to talk dollars and cents. And I'm going to go big picture at first, okay? Because back in this spring when we were talking about the budget and predictions coming up for years to come, right? Ken Mix put out in his budget that when we get to mid-2026, that the city would be out of cash, mid-2026. And that document said that the city will face a $9 million budget gap in 2027. $9 million budget gap with no money in the bank. That's what I want to talk about to begin with. That's pretty bleak, but follow me on this. Let's not say it's that bad. Instead of $9 million, let's say it's $6 million of a budget gap, okay? You can deal with a budget gap by cutting money, cutting spending, or raising money, property taxes, other sources of revenue. But the big one is property taxes. So if you have $6 million, you find maybe $2 million to cut. Maybe you find $1 million of savings to be able to put toward it. Now you're down to $3 million. Continuing with the math, if 1% is raised on the tax rate, it raises about $90,000 for the city of Watertown in revenue. We're going to average that up to $100,000. 1% equals $100,000. If you have a $3 million budget gap and you have to raise property taxes to close that because you've done everything else, you could be legitimately looking at, and I've knocked it down from $9 million to $6 million, you could be legitimately looking at a 30% property tax rate hike when we get 4 years out. Whomever wins the seat for mayor will be at the helm of that fiscal ship. So I've started over here. I'll start with Sarah Compo Pierce. Is that alarming to you? And what do you tell people about the possibility of property tax hikes that could be coming?
It's certainly alarming, and that's kind of why I've been banging the drum on fiscal responsibility and not adding costs to our budget that are things that we have to deal with every year. So, for example, an easy one, the pools. They're going to cost $500,000 to operate 3 pools annually. You have to look at those little things, and those little things certainly add up. You have to look at positions. So in a recent budget, it was proposed that we add right around 24 positions. My approach would have been, hey, let's take it slow. Let's add these incrementally. Let's see what the needs really are. So when you do things at that rate of adding positions, spending more money, it really is concerning, and that's kind of what I have been trying to be a voice for stopping those sorts of things. I know when we were presented this information about the budget, Channel 7 did a story on it and asked us each what our solution was to helping balance the budget when we get to that bleak outlook, if and when it comes. And my opponent's position was to look at cutting positions in the future. It doesn't make sense to me to add 24 positions and then in the future cut those positions. So I think you have to be fiscally responsible all along the way. You have to look at decisions as under the lens of, is this a need or a want? And ultimately, you have to keep these things in mind that you know, you can't have everything. You have to take care of the essentials first. So
I know that you've been called not fiscally responsible by your opponent, but you say that you are, and that you can balance recreational spending versus holding a city budget. Yes. So I'll ask you the same question. Isn't that alarming that we could be facing in the city of Watertown that sort of increase? And again, I've knocked it down a little bit.
Well, it is, but let me back up. The budget last year had the same number of positions proposed that are in this year's budget. My opponent voted against it last year, which also included a property tax decrease. And that also included an increase of 5 police officer positions to help fight our drug problem. This year, with the same positions in, she voted for it. So if we're talking fiscally responsible, you know, as far as the budget goes, then I would have expected that she would have voted no against that this year. And on top of that, the projects that we have spent money on this year, it's more like $7.2 million, maybe cutting, you know, we're talking, you know, we keep hearing $8 million, but our own city comptroller said it was fiscally responsible to bond for these projects instead, so that that money, that, you know, $7.5 million would be there for something else. And instead, my opponent refused to bond for it. Now, being fiscally responsible, back in 2020, when Mayor Smith was his first meeting, my opponent voted against the park pool. She voted against bonding for it. The mayor comes in and says it's fiscally responsible if we bond for it, and she bonded for it. So there's a little bit of flip-flopping going on here. And the thing is, those numbers were basically many projects and purchases and improvements. Pretty much everything that the city really wants on their wish list is in that number. So how do you increase revenue? Because that's the big thing here. Well, if you're looking at that fiscal cliff and you have to bring in more money, and you've said, you know, that we could increase revenues, where are you looking for? Well, here's the thing. We have a great grant writer right now on retainer for the city that is able to find us various grants. I think we need to look at that more. I think we need to make sure that we are doing everything we can for commercial development, because if you look at some of the, we have several new restaurants in the area that are right here in Watertown. That certainly will help in terms of sales tax. The revenue for sales tax has been going up steadily over the last couple of years alone. So. And we've been very fortunate that we have not had a property tax increase now in 2 years. It's actually been a decrease. So there are ways, and I think that some of the projects that we have were all put together. And yes, I think we really need to look at prioritizing what projects do we need to do now. But again, had my opponent bonded, that $7.5 million or so would still be in the fund balance.
So having cash in the bank is a good thing. I don't want to ask you about bonding. It's an important question. Then we're going to take a break. But if you need money in the bank and you knew that the majority was going for these projects, whether it's the pool, the golf course, why not say, okay, yes, go along with the majority. They want to spend the money, but the better thing to do is to bond for it and keep money in the bank and spread it over 30 years. Why did you not bond for it?
A couple things. The comptroller first and foremost said that the fiscally responsible thing to do would have been to not build a third pool and had that expense recurring every year. Bonding, for the public that doesn't know, is equivalent to putting something on a credit card. If I needed something essential for my home, why would I go out and put a pool on a credit card? It's going to cost you more money in the long run, and it's going to add to the long-term debt. And to my opponent's point about commercial development, yes, that is very important to seeing our city thrive and increase the tax base, and we need to be pro-business growth. My opponent voted against the zone change for Stewart's. Had I not voted for that, that Stewart's would not be there, and voted against a zone change that would have helped another business expand on Washington Street. So when you talk about improving the financial outlook for the city, that includes being pro-business growth, and I am the only candidate that has a proven track record of being pro-business growth.
All right.
And just to counter that, I did vote for Stewart's. I believe my opponent was not there for the final vote, and I did vote for that project to move forward. So the zoning was listening to the residents, because the residents were concerned. Even Mayor Smith voted against that zone change too. But when it came down to actually making the final decision on the site plan review and the special permit, the mayor voted no. I voted yes. My opponent was absent, so that probably counted as a no.
All right, we're going to talk water main break and water leaks. When we come back, we'll take a quick break here. We'll be right back.
Join the Orchestra of Northern New York for its fall concert, Inspired, on Saturday, October 28th in Potsdam and Sunday, October 29th in Watertown. Discover the skills of guest conductor and music director finalist Michael Colburn as he inspires 59 professional musicians to perform works by Mendelssohn, Walker, Rimsky-Korsakov, and Elgar. The concert is sponsored by the New York State Council on the Arts and the Northern New York Community Foundation. For tickets, visit onny.org. Come and be inspired. There's no better way to celebrate spring than with a beautiful bouquet from Next Step Floral Designs. With over 18 years of experience, Kate and her team take great pride in designing for every floral occasion, including weddings, sympathy, and formals. They also have plants, balloons, and plush gift items available at their convenient Route 11 location. Get the perfect gift for someone you love, or even have it delivered. Place your order by phone or on their website at nextstepfloraldesigns.com. Next Step Floral Designs, your new go-to florist.
Obituaries every weekday in the morning, at noon, and at first at 5 on 7 News. Remembering the recently departed. Obituaries sponsored by A. Causey Monuments and Phillips Memorial Home.
We need some help.
I know. I'm going to cashnetusa.com, and if approved, we can have the money in our account as soon as the same business day.
Go to cashnetusa.com to apply for the money you need.
Back here to continue our conversation with the candidates running for Watertown Mayor. We have Lisa Ruggiero and Sarah Compo Pierce. As we continue, let's talk about the water main break that happened last week. It brought to a halt a confident, clean source of drinking water. I don't know if there's any debate of if there's blame to put on anybody. I mean, there's some questions to have, but there isn't any real blame on this. Or do you disagree with that?
Well, I think the thing is, it happened, and I think even the mayor said that there was no way to predict that that would happen. Now, you know, it's just come out that, you know, a council candidate said that he was told by an employee in the water department that that leak had been going on, and I actually received a call personally from a retired city employee who said that it had been about 2 weeks. After talking with Mr. Mix last night, he said that it had been happening and that they had been trying to pinpoint that. So I think the staff, along with Fort Drum and our state representatives and people from the state office, you know, from the lieutenant governor, the governor, all the way down, came here and came together to help in such a situation. You know, that's what happens. Sometimes you can't predict where they're going to be, but in this case, they knew something was happening, you know, I think they may have been close to finding it before it actually happened.
So I think your answer would be the same, that everyone worked together and you found out the answers that you need at an appropriate time and you got to fix. But anything to add in terms of, do you blame somebody?
I mean, I would say, first and foremost, hats off to our city staff that worked long, hard hours to correct that problem, and our partners at different levels of government who came to our aid in a time when we really needed them, and in a time where we really saw firsthand what a lack of investment in our infrastructure can do. It can impact our healthcare system, it can impact our schools, it can impact our small businesses and their ability to make money, right down to it can impact what you're doing in your home and your ability to take a shower or wash your clothes. So if I'm going to place blame on anybody, and I really don't want to place blame on anybody, but I put the blame on the city council. In 2021, we were given a list of priority projects for water. One of those projects was the water main that we had the issues with. It's $3 million. We knew about this, and for my opponent to accuse somebody that she's not running against of knowing information and not sharing that information is disingenuous, because we know that there are issues with our infrastructure. We know that significant investments need to be made. However, instead of making those significant investments, the council majority spent $8 million on a pool and an overpriced golf course. Everybody drinks water, not everybody plays golf or swims.
So you knew the leak was there.
Of course, you know, and you've even said everybody is tired of hearing about the golf course, but that my opponent can only use the golf course to try to make a point. We do have many other issues other than the golf course, and to me there are other reasons why we obtained that land. But the thing is, we have right now on that list, and everybody agreed to get it down to the ARPA funds down to where it is, and we have over $8 million that was budgeted for water mains, and people have seen that, like Barbin Ave, Bugby. There's been a lot this year.
A lot of the fixes have been put in.
Exactly, and so it's not like it's being ignored. And you can only do so much a year. Because even with everything going on this year, we had a lot of people complaining about traffic tie-ups, the paving, streets torn up, and so forth. But to me, that's a good thing because that's progress, and we're seeing a lot of that. And the fact is, even with the reservoir, there's $500,000 that is in our ARPA budget of money set aside for that.
To fix the leak.
To fix the leak, which has been going on for anywhere between 30 and 40 years.
All right.
So somebody kicked the can down the road.
I want to talk about that.
We're trying to work on that.
Yeah, I want to talk about that because if you do the math in terms of the amount of water that's leaking out of there, if it's been going for 30 years, I don't have that math yet, but if you look at the amount of water leaking out of there, conservatively 400,000 gallons a day. If you buy bulk water from the city of Watertown, you buy it at $8.50 per 1,000 gallons. That's on the website, so that's the math that I did. You take that over a year, and the city is losing out of a product that you chlorinate, spend the time to get ready to be drinking water, dumping out $1,200,000 worth of water. When you talk about kicking the can down the road or investing in our assets that we have, if everyone's so upset about a water main break, why isn't somebody upset about a leaky reservoir for decades that's costing the city of Watertown millions of dollars? So When did you know about the leak in the reservoir? Did you guys know about it ahead of time, or is this pretty new to you?
New to me in July, I believe, of this year when it was brought to our attention at a council meeting, and I do think that they've been proactive about looking for a solution.
So same question, when did you find out? I'm going to come back and forth.
I would say it's about the same time, and I think that was when the city manager said that they hired divers to go in and take a look to see.
And they have been trying to find that leak. They haven't been able to find it. It's a tricky situation, and again, I see it as something that the city should be going after. We should be talking about this instead of the other things. I want to go back and forth,
Sure.
but where does it lie on your priority list right now
to your
to
point,
fix that?
I think one of the most important things that we could do moving forward as a city, and if elected mayor, I would like to see this happen. There's a litany of projects that could be happening in the city, a litany of infrastructure projects that need to be addressed. We need a way to rank them and say what project is the most important to address first, and then what other projects aren't as critical. So I think there needs to be, as I said, a ranking. And I also will make the point that when we were going through the spending for ARPA projects and infrastructure, we were told time and time again by Mr. Mix that you could spend the entirety of these ARPA funds, which were in the neighborhood of about $22 million, and still not have enough money to address the water infrastructure projects that need to be addressed.
So in terms of the leaky reservoir, where does it lie on your priority list?
Well, actually, ironically, in talking with the city manager last night, last Friday, they already had it scheduled to drain the reservoir and have somebody come in and inspect it. But because of the water leak, they had to put that off because they did not want to lose pressure. Now, what I understand is they still had about 2 feet of water in the reservoir once the water came back on, which is a good thing, but they didn't want to lose the pressure. So, so that is going to be rescheduled, but they did have a company coming in to do that. And that is a priority, and that should be done. And the fact that this has been going on for decades is unbelievable. But I think that the county has a buildings and grounds manager that actually knows what's going on with all the buildings, all the equipment, everything that goes on in the county. I really think that we need somebody like that in the city that can really understand what's happening with all of our buildings, because the city does own a lot of property, a lot of buildings, a lot of equipment. And I think that that might be the thing to look at, so that we know what our priorities are. Because if somebody puts something in front of us, we're not the expert when it comes to engineering, DPW work. We rely on them. But if we had somebody that actually could go out and do all of that, I think it'll make all of our department heads' jobs a lot easier.
In terms of fixing it, I mean, if it's a bunch of cash all at once, do we have the cash to be able to fix that leaky reservoir?
Well, we have right now, I want to say, I think the last number that we got is about 17 million in the fund balance, with about 10 to 11 million that has to be set aside for everyday expenses. So there is money there. Now, come January, if I was elected mayor, I would hope that I could get people to change their minds, maybe, and bond for the balance of the Flynn pool, because that will not be completely paid off by January. Then that way we could reserve that money for something else, such as infrastructure.
If the math works out in terms of what the fund balance would be left with, is there money there to fix the leaky reservoir if you're mayor?
I think there probably definitely is money to fix the leaky reservoir. I also think that the state and federal government have a focus on issues like this, issues like clean drinking water, and I would hope that we could demonstrate the severity of the case and possibly land some grants that would help cover the cost.
Yeah, well, we also have a $50 million project for clean drinking water that we really haven't gotten a lot of money in terms of grant money. There's some.
Right. We have bonded for it,
some
so
of it,
at least that, right, but anything that comes in, and what people don't realize is DANK is a great partner for us, and they will be paying 25% of that. So.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back to talk about a few more issues outside of what we've already talked about, so stay with us.
Announcing employee pricing for everyone on any new Malibu or Silverado 1500 in stock. When other dealers are selling for sticker price, Bob Johnson Chevrolet offers the biggest savings in the market. Take advantage of our ultimate discount today. And the best part is you can combine it with all other offers.
Bob Johnson Chevrolet. Bob Johnson Chevrolet. Bob Johnson Chevrolet.
It's a better place to buy a car.
The North Country enjoys the quick convenience, friendly faces, and deals that Save-A-Lot has to offer. Shop in one of our many locations and enjoy high-quality meats cut fresh in-store by our skilled meat cutters, as well as a full variety of dairy, frozen foods, and farm-fresh produce for growing healthy families. Explore a variety of national brands for new and old favorites, plus save on what you crave with weekly Shop the Dot specials. Look for the red dot and you'll find market-leading prices. Visit the Save-A-Lot in your community today.
Bustler's Beauties. From basketball to baseball to hockey to football. We've got the sports moments you'll want to catch. So join me every Monday night, 6, 10, and 11 for Bustler's Beauties. You'll never know what you'll see. Now that's a beaut. Sponsored by Carthage Savings and Loan.
As we focus on the budget for the city of Watertown, two major components of that, police and fire. I want to talk about the fire department here for a little bit. The union has endorsed Lisa Ruggiero for mayor. There are clear differences, I think, here in terms of the two sides. So I guess I'll start with you, if I could, council member, in terms of your support for the fire department. And I think it comes down, the expense would be, the argument would be that the minimum man-woman clause of 15 people, right? And so do you stick by that? Are you steadfast in your support of reading that contract to a T?
Well, actually, the highest court in New York State pretty much, they decided that for us. They said that the city was wrong and that the only way to control minimum manning is to negotiate it in the contract. And there have been some attempts, but there was nothing that can be done, so the city spent over $1 million fighting that, and in 2019 my opponent voted to appeal for it. You know, we talk about fiscal responsibility. That was just adding to that $1 million price tag to fight the union, and the city didn't have anything to show for it because they lost. They lost all the way up. I mean, the Supreme Court ruled in favor of the city, but after that, that was it. And so, you know, when it was proposed to us from the city attorney, it was, you're not going to be able to overturn that, and that's what the highest court said. And so we can't, we have to go by that because it's in the contract, and if there's a way to try to negotiate it out, absolutely, we can look at that. But it's all about that, and the city tried the last time around, and it didn't work.
So if the union were to want to negotiate that 15-person manning clause, you'd be open to doing that?
If they're open, yeah. If we can have an open dialogue. Now, when we went through the last contract, it actually went pretty well because they basically had city officials and the union officials together several times without the attorneys to be able to work through that. And the thing is, because of what the state ruling is on that, I mean, that's what we have to do is start here and figure out, can it be done, or can we find other ways to be able to make it work?
It's either the most expensive or second most department in terms of that budget, and I've already talked about how what the prediction is from your city manager right now, Ken Mix, and the fiscal catastrophe that could be coming. Clearly, I would think as a mayor, you'd be looking at the fire department to do what?
Sure, and I'll go back a little bit and just say that the importance of the work that our fire department, that our police department, that any emergency officials do cannot be overstated. It's critical to our community. I'm not surprised that the union endorsed my opponent. They were a major donor to her campaign in the past. And from my point of view, it seems that every issue related to the fire department, she seems to side with the union, and I have to wonder what kind of role those endorsements and donations play in her decision making. From my point of view as mayor, I would want to strike a balance between appropriate fire coverage, appropriate emergency coverage, and fiscal responsibility. As you said, it's one of the most expensive departments in the city. There needs to be a better balance, especially if the population here is shrinking. You have to strike that balance, and I think there probably has to be some giving on both sides.
So in terms of the union donation, I know there's an answer to that.
Well, yes, because, you know, my opponent wants to take cheap shots and say, you know, how much, you know, what do those contributions do for me? I only accepted them once as a candidate, not since I've been elected official. In 2017, I was not elected yet. I was not in office. Since then, they have not offered. I have not asked. And the thing is that she voted against the rescue truck, which performs a very important service. When we had the majority last year, there was a way to be able to bring it back, but also resolve arbitration. Her side said, oh, well, you know, we'll save money by cutting it. No, we still had arbitration hanging, and we had to resolve that. So we did bring back the rescue truck. The other thing is the SAFER grant. Our city comptroller said, yes, that will certainly help control your overtime costs by doing that. She has voted against it. I voted in favor of it because of what the overall savings would be.
And on the other side of that, the SAFER grant, you get the money up front, but once you're there with those personnel, the city's on the hook
Correct.
for all of the costs?
And in regards to the rescue truck, I didn't want to see the rescue truck gone completely in complete cessation of responding to emergencies. My goal with that was to only see the fire department responding to the most critical emergencies, because we do have Guilfoyle that also responds. On the SAFER grant, my concern with that is you're hiring these employees and then they're there for a very long time. As you probably know, the benefits are incredibly expensive. So when you have these employees that are hired through the SAFER grant, you're adding to long-term costs for the city.
So I want to ask about the town of Watertown's idea, and I don't know where it stands right now, but the town of Watertown was thinking, okay, maybe we want to hire or have a contract with the city that if the city can respond, because it's hard to get volunteers in the town of Watertown. I'm not picking on town of Watertown, it's just where the idea came from. Very quick answer, is that a way to bring in more revenue for the city of Watertown and support having a 15-person clause in there for minimum staffing? As mayor, would you be open to having those discussions?
I would be open to having those discussions. I think part of it is what the union contract says, if that's going to be a conflict or not. I think it's a long ways off to being able to see how that arrangement might be, because there have been several conversations I've heard about whether it would be off-duty, firemen from the city doing it versus on duty and covering at the same time on the same shift. But I do also want to add, my opponent did vote against the rescue truck. She voted to take it off the road and to sell it, and voted against the new one, which didn't cost the city any money because it was a surplus vehicle already in. But as far as the other, I know town of Watertown has a shortage of volunteers. I'm a volunteer firefighter myself, so I know how that works, and it gives me a very unique perspective on that. And throughout the country, we have shortages, and so if there's a way that, and I think my understanding is that this would be a temporary situation for them, but so I certainly am open to discussing.
And I imagine that you'd be open to it as well. But can the city cover more of an area if they're going into the town of Watertown? And how do you balance that with somebody in the city of Watertown that needs coverage?
Honestly, I think that obviously the city residents and their needs would come first, but perhaps there is a way to move this forward. And when you talk about that negative financial outlook that we have in the out years, it becomes more and more important to come up with creative ideas, solutions like this that maybe could improve the city's financial outlook. So again, very preliminary as far as the discussions on this goes, but something I would definitely want to explore as mayor.
Thousand Islands Event Center in the town of Watertown, a big project, and it would have some ice. It would be a venue for concerts. As mayor, as you look at your asset as a municipal building that you have right now, the ice arena, which loses money, by the way, does the Thousand Islands Event Center have your support? Does it worry you? Could it take business away from the city of Watertown at a venue that's already losing money?
Right. Well, and that was a concern.
Okay.
That definitely was a concern, and I know at the time Supervisor Bartlett came in and asked if we would at least support the concept. I was in favor of it. I believe my opponent might have been against it, if I recall. But and I did have those conversations with the supervisor about that, and he said that in no way would they go after our contracts, whether it was for football or for hockey, that they wanted to bring in a different level of sports to the area, and that would not conflict with what we have.
What about concerts? Anything on
the concerts, they're talking big, and
so more than what the arena would
have,
hold.
right? And
okay.
obviously we don't have that type of facility to be able to handle that many people, but I think for the type of concerts that DPAO has, that I hope that we would still be able to accommodate them, and that they would come to us as they always have in the past.
And for the record, the developers were in here and they said that they didn't want to compete, they want to be a community partner. But does it worry you to have that big venue out there when you have the asset of the municipal building?
So I first heard about this project when I was in Senator Ritchie's office and had conversations with those involved, and I think most of the public knows from different news stories that a major component of making this project happen is getting that support from the state. So I was familiar with the project for a number of years since the beginning conversations about it. As the councilwoman alluded to, there was a resolution at a city council meeting indicating the city council's support for the project. I did not vote in favor of it because I had a number of questions that I wanted to have answered about the project before fully putting my support behind it. In that time since, I have had conversations with people involved, further conversations with people involved about how it would impact our facilities as a city. And I think that there is an opportunity to work together to meet the needs of the larger community and kind of capitalize on bringing more people to the area for entertainment. I know one of the hindrances we have with our arena is the fact that the ice goes down so early and stays down so late, precluding different events from happening as often as we would like them to, you know, whether it's a trade show or a concert. I'm a member of the DPAO Foundation Board, and I know that there is a dire need for somewhere for them to have bigger shows. This could be the venue for that, and it really would, I think from my perspective and what I've learned, create a ripple effect for the community where you would have thousands upon thousands of people visiting and checking out Watertown, visiting our small businesses, staying in our hotels. So I do think that if it happens, it would be a benefit to the area.
The zoo is in trouble, needs more money, and is looking for a way, some kind of collaboration, maybe county and city. What's the city's role? Does the zoo deserve more money?
The zoo has obviously had issues in recent years, and it would be terribly unfortunate to see the zoo go away, to see it fail, because I think for many people in our community, for many families especially, it's an activity that they can go and visit pretty much year-round. It's one of few activities that we have to offer not only families locally, but also it serves as a tourist attraction. Mr. Sorrell approached the city council, approached the mayor a while ago about putting together a blue ribbon panel of people who can put their heads together and identify an operating model for the zoo that works. I've shared my recommendations with Mr. Sorrell as well as the mayor for people who I think would offer valuable input to that committee. I think that's a good starting point. And I think also, as you alluded to, there's probably an opportunity to work more closely with the county because, as I mentioned, this is a true regional asset. When you talk about attracting people to our community and having them come to Watertown and spend money, I don't think they're coming here for swimming pools or to golf because there's so many golf courses locally. The zoo is a unique attraction that I think, again, has regional draw, and it would behoove us all to work together to see that it succeed in the future.
Okay, so in terms of money for the zoo, where does the zoo rank for you?
I think it is a very important asset, and contrary to what my opponent said, I think having the pool in the park, it takes somebody with vision. And when I was asked this in 2017 when I first ran, I said I supported having a pool in there because then you have a tourist destination. You have the pool, you have the splash pad, you have playgrounds, you've got the zoo. Now we have a golf course. And again, my opponent says, oh, you know, it's time to move forward, let's not be negative about it. But they did very well this year. And I think that by having all of this in the park can only draw more people. I would like to see the zoo be more self-sustaining, and I think they definitely need a new business model because we're giving them more money, and I agree that the county should step in and do something. And had we bonded for the projects that we have been involved with, we would be able to add that $1 million back in for the zoo, for their expansion for the Adventureland phase, because that is a key phase for their operation, because that is where their revenue will be. It would be a boost in the arm for them to be able to have instant revenue between a zip line and a rope bridge and so forth. And I really felt that was what they really needed to start with, because that would generate revenue for them. And I think that's what they have to do, is find a way to generate more revenue, more interest to be able to keep going.
All right, we're going to take a break. One more round of questions when we come back.
Hey North Country, do you know a student in grades K through 12 who is dedicated to volunteer work in their community? Now's the time to recognize them. Nominate your child today at WWNYTV.com for a chance to be this month's winner of the Kids Giving Back contest, sponsored by Northern Credit Union. Each monthly winner will be recognized for their contributions with a $250 donation to their cause or charity of choice. Don't wait, send in your submissions today at WWNYTV.com under the contest tab. Kids Giving Back, sponsored by Northern Credit Union.
If you're 65 or older or have an underlying health condition, you may be at higher risk for severe illness, hospitalization, and even death from COVID-19. Know your risk and make sure you're up to date on your COVID vaccines.
Get ready for your morning checkup. Every Wednesday, Samaritan Health joins 7 News This Morning to bring you the latest in health, from medicine to prevention and treatment. Your morning checkup delivers information and answers straight to you from the medical professionals at Samaritan. Tune in Wednesday mornings for your morning checkup on 7 News, sponsored by Samaritan Health.
Last bit of our conversation with the candidates for Watertown Mayor. Again, appreciate you ladies being here and talking with me. The hydro facility, we have that problem coming up where the contract runs out, the lucrative deal with National Grid runs out. Are we any closer to an answer than we were a few years ago when we developed this? The mayor had a commission and a group, and here's what we need to do. But where are we with that? Some may say it doesn't feel like we're closer to an answer.
Well, you're right. I mean, we did just recently pass a resolution in terms of what the hydro productivity could be. If elected mayor, I would like to appoint a committee that would be strictly on hydro revenue in terms of what can be done. Can something be done? I mean, out of the commission, they did produce some options that could produce income, and that's kind of where it ended. And I think that we really need to pick up from there and start in and look at those options and then start implementing them.
Yeah, it's been a slow going in terms of a plan. Do you have a plan for hydro?
Sure, and I think it's important to note that the loss of the hydropower contract underscores the need to be fiscally responsible right now. I served on the committee that explored different ways to address the hydropower cliff. The committee did come up with several recommendations in working with our consultant, and they might not be widely known by the public, but the public should know that these things are being explored. Number 1, selling power to residents through the Community Choice Aggregation Program. Number 2, selling power to the NYSO, that's the New York State Independent Systems Operator, which manages the state's electric grid. And number 3, looking at renewable energy credits with the PSC, the potential for that to happen. So there are solutions that this committee did bring forward. They're continuing to be looked at. As mayor, I would make it a priority to continue to push for the fleshing out of these different ideas and then seeing which ones make the most sense to move forward with. And again, the whole loss of the hydropower contract really underscores the importance of being fiscally responsible now. That, combined with the negative financial outlook for the city, should be a real wake-up call to anybody.
As we look at the city of Watertown, and why do people live here, right? So why are they in the city? What services do they get? Garbage pickup, you do have your fire service, you have your police service, you have a couple of other amenities in there. Give me your vision of Watertown. Is there something big that comes with your vision of Watertown, or is it just status quo? Is it just keeping what we have and here we are, this is it? Or would you push for something of municipal power or municipal internet? Or is there a big idea that's not happening right now that you would be in favor of? Or is it, no, we just need to maintain what we are right now and that's tough enough?
I think right now what we need to be doing is basically getting our financial house in order, getting our infrastructure in order, and then I think that vibrant community that we want to see will happen. When you look and talk about infrastructure, it might sound boring, but infrastructure is at the basis of everything that a community is.
No, we just saw what happened.
Right. You're not going to have families wanting to locate here. You're not going to want to have businesses wanting to locate here that are going to create jobs for people. Infrastructure is at the basis. So we're in a position right now as a city where we need to right the ship, get the basics in order, and then I think we can, for lack of a better term, we can level up here in Watertown. Watertown's a great place. We have a number of assets. We're in a perfect location for people to come and visit, close to the Canadian border, close to other major cities. We have a lot going for us, and one of the most important things that we have going for us, we have a very passionate community with many members of the public who love Watertown and want to see it thrive. But I think we need to take care of the basics first and then become that community that we can all be proud of.
So I would argue over here that you'll say that we have been leveling up if you're getting a new pool and you're improving a golf course and things in Thompson Park. So I get your vision on that. But is there anything else that you would promote? What is your vision for Watertown, or is it keep what it is now?
Well, here's the thing. Why can't we do both? You know, we've been hearing for years, a city this size can't do this, can't have that, can't have 3 pools. I think people want to hear a city this size can do whatever they want. I mean, we need somebody to be positive. You know, I like to say that, you know, being a mayor is you're the people's mayor. You're sort of the cheerleader of the city. You need somebody in that role that is optimistic, that is positive, that can sell the city to people. By what my opponent is saying is by being fiscally responsible, that means you're not spending money on anything other than what you have to. That's been the problem for many years. Even when it came to voting on the increase of the water rates, my opponent voted against it. But guess what? The needed pumps for the water system were in that budget if we raised that 10% rate for the water rates. I voted in favor of that because, again, you'd be kicking the can down the road. We need that. The rates had not even been increased in 5 years. So I think we can do both. And, you know, and 2 things I think that are great to point out. You know, we're definitely looking at a new skateboard park that somebody will put in at Sewell's Island. Disc golf will be coming to Thompson Park. So these are things that might not cost the city anything. So there's nothing wrong in doing both. But that's what we've been doing since I've been on council, is every year we see street projects, we see sidewalk programs, water and sewer mains, paving, we see everything, and that has not stopped.
Can I just
quickly? Sure.
One point here. One of the things, if mayor, that I would make a priority, and something that I have tried to bring to the council, is I think one of the problems with our city is we focus too much on continuing to do the same thing. So I'll use the pools for an example. We've been talking about pools, I think back, gosh, when I was a reporter at Channel 7, I think I was covering stories about multiple pools. If we want to be a city that is vibrant, attracts new people, attracts new businesses, we need to diversify what we are offering the public. You don't have to look very far to see other communities that are doing just that. City of Oswego, Mayor Billy Barlow has done an excellent job at diversifying what he offers the city in terms of recreational opportunities, in terms of business development. It's those different kinds of assets that are going to make our community attractive to people who want to live and work here.
So I want to give time for closing statements, and you can talk to the audience. But first, I'm not there yet. I want to ask this question because status quo is what we're talking about. Status quo will have us run out of money in mid-2026 in terms of a bank account, and then face a $9 million deficit in the following year, in 2027, according to your city manager. Status quo, someone could argue, isn't working right now. So I would ask, we can't be status quo. What can you change to not have this fiscal cliff? I'm sorry that I concentrate on it, but it's there, it's facing
right.
You know, the city, and it's got to be a challenge, and you want to lead the city, right?
Absolutely, and I think that there are ways to be able to do that, and I think we also need to prioritize what projects need to be done, and we do that every year. We look at what has to be done with our current budget, and then a lot of those projects are listed in that. But the ARPA funds, I mean, you're going to see a lot of work next year too to get this done, and so I think we've made a big dent. If we didn't have those funds, imagine where we would be.
A lot of stuff wouldn't have gotten done.
But I think the thing is having that vision to know if we can add certain features to the city, whether it's recreational opportunities, you name it, golf course did very well this year. They already have several tournaments booked for next year, some big ones that are coming back because now they see it's positive. My opponent and the mayor were so negative about it, it drove away business. And I appreciate the staff there and what they have done. They've had to face a lot of adversity, and now they're already ahead of the game for next year.
And your hope is it's an investment and it makes money
it's
for it.
definitely an investment.
I want to make sure I give the right time. So if I have to, 30 seconds here in terms of status quo isn't good enough?
2 quick points. The golf course, I've been a cheerleader for that since we took it over. I have been trying to promote it, and I don't think we'll ever make back the $3.4 million that we overpaid because we didn't have an appraisal, and my opponent, who's a real estate professional, didn't want to get an appraisal. That was a big mistake. We'll never make that money back. When I say, I feel like a broken record here kind of, but the status quo is not sustainable, as you said. As I said a few minutes ago, we need to right the ship. We need to restore fiscal responsibility. We need to take care of the essentials first. We need to make cuts where necessary to make that budget work and not put too much of a burden on taxpayers. And we need to be pro-business growth. We need to encourage businesses to come here and support them.
So I'm looking at a clock over here is the reason I keep on looking. We have just a couple of minutes. This is one area where I have to keep you to your time, and I'd like to have 90 seconds of a closing statement. Then I'll have you have the final word from Councilmember Ruggiero.
Sure. Okay. Thank you. First of all, I'd like to say thank you to Channel 7, and thank you most importantly to the viewers at home that are taking time to watch this debate and educate themselves about their future choices for mayor. Real quickly, I was born and raised in Watertown, spent 10 years in Senator Ritchie's office as her chief of staff, doing everything from legislation to constituent response, helped tens of thousands of people throughout my career with the senator, and built relationships with people at all levels of government, from the villages in Jefferson County and throughout the North Country, all the way up to the governor's office and the federal government and our heroes at Fort Drum. And it's those relationships that I know would help me to move the city forward as its next mayor. In addition, I'm also a small business owner, I'm a wife, I'm a mother, and a very active community volunteer who cares deeply about the city of Watertown. Been on council for nearly 5 years now, and I'm very proud of my record, which has been fiscally responsible and pro-business growth. Proud of the initiatives that I've spearheaded, including my community office hours program, which has provided constituents an opportunity to meet with me regularly, one-on-one in an informal setting to share their concerns, as well as my Adopt a Spot program, which is helping to beautify every corner of the city with help from the community. As I said many times along this campaign, the most important job that we have as representatives is to listen to you, the public. That has been my focus, and that has helped me make the best decisions possible as a council member.
Thank you. All right, and?
I respectfully ask for your vote.
Thank you. Ms. Ruggiero.
Thank you. I also thank 7 News for doing this and providing this opportunity to be able to speak to you, the voters that are tuning in. I have been on council since 2018, so I'm in my 6th year, and I certainly appreciate the support over the years when I first ran in 2017 and then when I ran for re-election in 2021. When I ran in 2021, I actually campaigned on replacing the Flynn pool, and I appreciated the support in that election. What's different between when I first ran and now? Nothing. I'm the same person that I've always been. You've heard a lot of negativity about some of the things that we have accomplished over the years, but I am proud of that. I had vision to see how the Thompson Park pool would be and bringing people to the park and help visit the zoo, whether it's other recreational facilities in the park. You have to look at something down the road. I don't look at just today. I like to look at 5 years, 10 years, 20 years down the road. I'm actually proud of the purchase of the golf course and having the land to protect it. I've been a resident of the city for over 40 years. I'm married. I love the city, and I appreciate everything that you have done for me, and I will certainly do everything for you as mayor. Thank you.
And we appreciate both of you for being here and answering questions, and the voters can have a chance to listen to this. It'll be posted online as well, so people can replay it and they can listen to your answers. Once again, thank you very much, and best of luck to both campaigns.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you for watching. I'm Jeff Cole for 7 News.